We speak with David Brown from Shooters Union Australia about the upcoming rally in the West to send a political message to both sides of politics ahead of the Western Australian state election in March. We look at how you can get there, what to expect, and what you can do to make sure your mates get there as well. Plus the real story of where the rally idea came from. It will surprise you.
Rabbit season! Wabbit season! Duck season! Fire!
Welcome to the Go Years of Australia podcast. It's the podcast for Australian shooters who just want the political interference taken out of shooting.
So welcome to another episode of Gun News Australia, brought to you by Politics Reloaded and Gun Traders Australia. And I have David Brown from Shooters Union with me. How you doing, Dave?
Very well. Good new year. Lots to do.
It's a very busy part of the year. Normally it's quiet, but we've got an election coming up in WA, which is pivotal, obviously for shooters in WA, but also very important for shooters elsewhere because of obviously, someone sneezes, others catch a cold, that sort of thing. So
it's funny you talk about that, and we say about a busy new year. We've certainly had some things going on in New South Wales, which we've had some good results with, dealing with the registry down there. Queensland, there's an ongoing battle up here. It's gotten to sort of almost war footing. We've also got a new government in place, so got to work with them. Tasmania, our representative down there, plus some others. And when I say others, I mean getting others involved. Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party, for example, SSAA, a couple of other groups, actually rolled back this position that Tasmania police took, that hunters from other states couldn't actually come into the state and shoot, which was absurd. But that's been resolved, so there is some good news to start the year. Yeah. And obviously there's a little bit of an event coming up in Western Australia soon, and I'm sure you want to talk about it.
We will. I'm glad you mentioned Tasmania, though. We'll be interviewing Phil Biggs shortly, so that'll come out soon on the issue you raised. But what we're seeing are snippets of things that are happening in other states that are really following the same theme that we're seeing in WA. The problem is that's the big ticket item. So whilst I appreciate that we've been covering the WA rally quite heavily, there's a reason for that. It's not just because of WA, it's because of the flow-on effect to other states. As you said, you saw it in Queensland. We saw ammo sales restrictions in Northern Territory, which have gone, but they were there. We saw the Tasmanian thing. And in fact, in Tasmania, they were going to actually ask people if you wear glasses or have hearing aids when you renew your license, which can only lead to one outcome.
Yeah, they're just looking for excuses. We've got range issues in South Australia, and that's going to arc up very shortly.
Yeah.
In fact, that's actually going to affect a lot of people. And these things seem to be, it's like, if it wasn't happening, you'd call it a conspiracy theory. Like, really. It's all of these little elements are popping up, that they're trialing something different in every state, and then when they have a success, I'm sure it's going to reappear somewhere else. So, like I say, if it wasn't for the fact it's happening, you'd have to call it a conspiracy theory, but it's not, it's fact.
It's there, and it's I can actually back that by saying that there are, I think, twice yearly police meetings that happen, and I've been putting in freedom of information requests to dig into that, and I haven't quite got where I want to go yet. I'll reserve that for a little bit later, but I've got the travel details and everything. I just don't have the agenda items and the meeting minutes. Anyway, go back to WA. Now, as has been announced by Shooters Union, there's a rally for shooters on the 8th of February, 10:30 a.m. in Supreme Court Gardens. So, first of all, congratulations and thank you for leading that, because that's badly needed 1 month before the upcoming WA state election.
Well, the timing's probably quite good, but don't so much thank me, and I really must commend our guy in Western Australia, Steve Harrison. He was the one that led the charge. He had been approached by fellow shooters and shooters union members, but fairly significant people in the WA shooting community. And I'm pretty sure you know who I'm talking about and what I'm alluding to.
Well,
So it
let's
wasn't insignificant, was it?
let's talk about that, because some of the criticism that's come our way has been from one of the really big organisations there, and I'll just say that the people who Steve spoke with are from the SSAA in WA.
So a couple of them were founding members of SSAA Western Australia, and well, I'm not here to sink the boot into SSAA, but these are your people that came to us wanting to do this. So I think that speaks volumes to the concern amongst the wider shooting community, because as we've said before, clubs over there represent maybe 15% of the firearm owners in Western Australia. So the other 85% don't get too much of a one-on-one voice. That's my assessment anyway.
Yeah, and I share your view that this is not really about, sort of, blaming people, but I think it's important to make the point that this came out of WA after months and months of correspondence with their leadership, and they weren't seeing anything. And we've got a state election coming up. It's a great opportunity, the best opportunity you'll ever have to make a stand against a government anywhere in Australia. And so that's sort of what we're at now.
Yeah, and to Steve's credit, this was what was this Boxing Day, the day after, if my memory serves me correctly. I was at the farm and had lots of things going on with health issues with elderly folk in the family, and I really didn't think I was going to be devoting any serious time to anything like that. But to Steve's credit, and with your assistance and our media guys and what have you, we managed to pull stuff together really quickly, whilst a lot of our own internal contractors and staff were all on leave. So, you had to plug a bit of a gap there, and thank you for doing so.
And I'm not going to dwell on this point much longer, but there's one last thing I will say about I think some of the things that have been said is that the one thing which I sense from the detractors is I take the view, I think they're pro-Labor. I think they don't want to see, they don't like the gun laws that have come from Labor, but they can't bring themselves to supporting the other side. So I'll just leave it on that point, which I know is going to stir a few people up, but too bad.
Well, the truth, the truth might be that's the case. So. Okay.
If you like this podcast, you can support the show by becoming a member of Politics Reloaded. Your support will help us get us interviews and information like this that shooters need to hear out to them. For more information, check out the show notes or go to politicsreloaded.com. So, with the rally, we've talked about the reason why. That is, we've got the election coming up, got a huge problem, and shooters are very much primed for this because the feedback we've been getting has been so strong. And we'll come back to that very point. But the benefits, if we get political attention to this issue, if we can make the point that we can convert this into votes at an election, that's probably the most valuable thing that we can do in the political sphere. This can cost jobs. It can cost politicians jobs. So don't do this stuff.
Yeah, there's twofold here. There is, exactly as you say, we need particularly people in the shooting community to take this issue but expand the issue amongst friends and family. So communicate with your colleagues at work, and people don't like talking politics, but I'm afraid, as you know, my friend Tom Gresham in the States says, if you're a gun owner, you're into politics, whether you like it or not. So we've got to encourage people to go out and talk to friends and family. And even if it's not on the firearm issue, it's what's next. If they can do that to us, what are they going to come after next? Is it going to be four-wheel drives? Is it going to be people camping, spearfishing, you name it? Nothing's off limits. And this needs to multiply as a force multiplier through friends and family, because that's the best way to communicate. Say, hey, it's happening to me, but it'll happen to you on your favourite hobby or your business down the track. And sometimes it's business and livelihoods that are affected. So that's the political aspect there in terms of election results and voting. However, we do have the National Party that have put a pretty good line in the sand. And my favourite aspect of this is we need to, one, demonstrate to the National Party that, yes, that is supported by a lot of people. You can't go back on this. There's no softening or weakening. In fact, hey, go a little bit harder. So we need to show support for their line in the sand and at the same time give courage to others, i.e. Liberals, Democratic, SSFP, SFFP, independents, that, hey, it's worth their while standing up and supporting this same position. You might not support the National Party or the Liberal Party or whatever on other matters, but please, look at this and support them on this because there's enough of us that actually care.
Yeah, and the stats actually do speak for themselves. Your original post announcing the rally went off the charts. There's 650 shares on Facebook, which anybody who's on Facebook
I
would
think
know.
it's way more than that now too. Yeah.
It's in that. I put out a video a little while ago on the safe specifications and promoted the rally. So again, it's all WA. I've just checked just then, it's done 11,000 views, which, for my sort of fairly new startup podcast is pretty solid. So that tells politicians that they're on a winner if they go onto this.
Yeah, I'm reluctant because I might get the number wrong, but I'm reluctant to give away the internal numbers. I know you've discussed them with our media guy and myself.
Yep.
But suffice to say, we are talking 10 to 11, maybe now 12 times the biggest reach and engagement and sharing, even over some of the most emotive and wildly supported Queensland-based topics, because obviously we have a very strong membership up this way. So in terms of reach into the public, and obviously that's around the country, but even in Western Australia, it is off the charts. Like,
yep.
I'd like to throw numbers, but if I did, people would say you're BSing. But I can tell you, we're not.
No.
It surprised the heck out of me.
If we stick to the public domain numbers, which the politicians can check for themselves,
They
go
can
and have
check
a look at this stuff, and then do your sums, and then you'll realise just how deep this cuts into the WA community. They will vote on this because a lot of shooters are one issue people. I'm certainly one issue. I've become one issue over years because of this crap that's happening, and those numbers show that. Yep.
Yeah, and actually that's something we don't talk about. I know my friend Tom does with his radio show each week. You've got to become a single issue voter, because, taxes will come and go and health and education comes and goes. But once your gun rights go, they're gone. So we need to be motivating. That's all of us in the shooting community need to actually say, hey, we need to become single issue voters. End of message. I've often joked, and I will preface this with jokes here, if the Labor Party came out and said, we're going to abolish all the 96 gun laws and we're going to put something sensible in place that Shooters Union can draft the rules, I will be out there, vote one ALP. I can tell you, it would probably make my mother and father, or my father would turn in his grave, but I'd do it because it matters that much.
I think shooters has been pushed to that point.
But as you say, though, a lot, Dad had a Ford, so I drive a Ford. Can't marry a woman that's parents have Holdens. It's that sort of tribal rivalry that often, people vote the way their parents did, and I dare say an element of the shooting community, but this goes outside of that. This is a case of if the government's been willing to literally such a draconian approach to the most law-abiding people in society, what are they willing to do to everyone else? And I think we as shooters need to become single issue, but we need to start convincing friends and family, expand that reach that, hey, hang on, you could be next for whatever reason, for no good reason. So anyway, I've probably had enough on that, but that's my biggest selling point on this whole rally is it's an education, but it's also more a show of strength. We don't need 500 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people to turn up to hear that these WA gun laws are stupid. They already know it. We need people to show up to prove that the National Party position, and it's the best position we've got so far, cannot be backpedaled on. And the other people that may or may not get elected, but the ones that do, need to understand they need to support that position or do better. And I think this is a demonstration of strength in numbers. Then there's nothing I can tell them or you can tell them or anyone else can tell them that's going to, make a massive difference. But it's all about motivating the people and getting them on side, but sending a message to the parties that, hey, people actually do care.
And another symptom of the response that we've got is that you and I talked about a go, no-go point, a decision point. Do we proceed with the rally or do we pull the pin? And we didn't really have a firm time frame for that, but I was thinking, mid-January, getting some time between then and maybe Australia Day, something like that. No real harm done. If we have to pull out, yeah, sure, tail between the legs, but within 24 hours of that original post, it was beyond, it was outside our control. It's going ahead, but that really just that shocked us.
Yeah, it's sort of like grabbing onto the tiger by the tail. Oh dear, what did we do? What did we start? But still, those go no go decisions had to be made based on venue and venue approval, and dealing with any regulatory. And some of our folk in Western Australia, and quite a few people actually, are ex Waypole, TRG type folks, etc. They know how to do this sort of stuff and not, fall foul of the law. We had to make sure we had our ducks in all the right order. I will rarely come out with glowing comments about councils, state governments, federal governments, but I'm going to give the Perth City Council a massive plug. And I think you know what I'm referring to here, I'm sure. The fact that very quickly they responded, very quickly they even refunded our application fee and said, no, your event's fine, no charge. Like that was tick number one for me. The Perth Council were actually quite prepared to have this venue, which is there for these sorts of purposes, but because of our kind of purpose, we're not running a rock concert, and we're not. It's a not for. In fact, it's not even for profit. It's for expenses. We're off to a great start there, and obviously Steve and his ability to put in good applications and deal with the Waypole people, they've been very cooperative. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's a lot of people within Waypole that actually are not fans of this legislation. Probably a lot of them are shooters that are being disadvantaged as well, because certainly Steve and a lot of his former colleagues, they're bleating in the bleachers as well.
Well, we're going to be getting on to speakers not today, but
later on.
Come later on. I think people will be very surprised about who we've got rolling up. So we will now talk about the mechanics around the rally. So this is the flyer which Shooters Union put out a few days ago, and so the details: 10:30 a.m. on the 8th of February, which is a Saturday. Supreme Court Gardens in Perth. Dress properly. Don't wear camo. Don't do anything. Don't carry anything with you, signs or clothing or anything that's provocative. There's no need for it. In fact, shooters know this stuff because they know exactly what to do and what not to do. There's nothing absolutely, in family environment. As you were saying, Dave, we've got the permits from certainly the permit from Waypole. the council's lined up. There's the QR code there if you want to register to get the updates as they come out prior to the.
I think that's very important, Neil. Anyone watching this at any point between now and the 8th of February, yeah, I know I hate QR codes a little bit. I mean, I do use them occasionally. Use this, please. You know, your information's not going to get sold to, you know, someone in telemarketing in India. The whole purpose of this, and the database is going to be scrapped anyway when we're finished. The whole purpose of this is so that we can pump out updates and information that we know you will receive. Because as you know, social media, you can post something up, and I've had it happen many a time. You get something that was posted a week ago and you go, damn, I needed to know about that 4 days ago. Opportunity lost. So don't be afraid of getting on a list. We're not going to sell it to Waypol. You know, we need to be able to communicate quickly. We're not likely to do it, but I've seen it with other things, you know, where a venue gets changed at the last minute. We're not doing that. But just imagine something like that happens, or we need everybody to congregate at the northern end, or the ground is boggy, so make sure you wear suitable shoes. Something useful that we need to send out, you know, make sure you're signed up, because it just helps us communicate with you, and you don't have to rely on the Twitter, Facebook, whatever methods of communication.
Okay, so there's one last look at the QR code, or you can go to tinyurl.com/WA Gun Rally, and updates will go out. And also, one of the key advantages about that is that you'll get a reminder, you know, a couple of days before, hey, it's on, just in case, because life's busy. If you are thinking, oh yeah, I've seen the video about the rally, and then you forget about it, you'll be kicking yourself, you know, hell or high water. But we'll send you a reminder to say, hey, this is on tomorrow. Get there, because life's busy.
One other thing that you mentioned about, you know, try to avoid camo and anything that might be sort of insightful to the media or whatever. We in Queensland have got some ridiculously stupid knife laws now, which failed just the other day. And I noticed Coles, in their ultimate wisdom now, stop selling knives. So it's a bit like Ford dealers stop selling Fords and Toyota dealers stop selling Toyotas. Great logic. But we have these silly laws here in Queensland, and guess who else has them? Western Australia. So be extra careful. You're going to be in the city precinct, and whilst I don't fully appreciate the nuances of the West Australian law, you wouldn't want to have your pocket knife on your belt as you've driven into town from, you know, working on your property, and they turn up wanding everyone, and you're oblivious, and the next thing you know, you get pinged. So I don't know how big of a threat that is in Western Australia, but it certainly would be one. Make sure we are the most responsible people in society. Make sure that you inadvertently don't let yourselves and everybody else down is probably my message on that.
Yep. There's no issue. And look at the marches of '96 and even before then. I mean, they were huge. And I think people would have had very similar concerns there. You know, a whole lot of gun owners, you know, in one location, they went fine. There was no problem, because people, you know, understood and respected the environment they were in.
And let's just talk about that environment a bit, because it was on that flyer about it being family friendly. Bring your kids along, you know, let them see how a proper democratic public display of support or not support can be conducted, because I'm confident that amongst the shooting fraternity, as I said before, we are the most responsible, law-abiding sector of society. When I first got involved with Shooters Union back, 8 or 9 years ago, we were at a function that was held in Brisbane with a Canadian politician that came out to speak. And I'd left my keys, my wallet, several $100s in it, my phone, on a table that we'd been at, and I'm, you know, damn near 100 meters away. And my wife says to me, "You've left all your gear over there." I said, "You know, it's safe, perfectly safe. There's not one person in this room," and there were north of 300, I guess. I said, I'd have zero fears of anything going astray. And sure enough, I was right. You can't find that kind of community in most other places. So it will be a good environment. You'll get to hang out with other like-minded people, and, you know, they'll be decent people. They'll come from all walks of life. You'll have solicitors, politicians, police, you know, iron ore miners, farmers, engineers, maybe even some public servants. You know, they'll all be good people.
You wouldn't get that level of trust at the Labor State Conference. So I had to throw that one in. For those who say our gun laws are okay, no, they're not okay. It's not okay for police to make the rules or for guns to be banned for the weakest of reasons, or to go after shooters just because they wear glasses. It's not okay to use duck season as a political football, or to close our gun shops without reason, or for politicians to use us as a battering ram. No, our gun laws are not okay. So we've talked about, as I said, we'll be revealing the speakers later on. Suffice to say, there'll be a mixture of political leaders and shooting industry people. So,
we're about 3/4 booked, I think, if memory serves me, or maybe a bit more.
It's filling up, so we're almost there. I think. Again, stay tuned. We'll be giving this more coverage in the next couple of weeks.
Use that QR code.
Use a QR code, sign up, because you'll get the updates. And as I said, it's actually you get the reminder, so you won't forget about it. I'm going to finish up here by just asking shooters to do one last thing, and I think this is something which we'll probably ask at the rally too. You need to also call Labor's head office, and let them know that you're not happy. Now, normally we'd say call the minister. There's no point calling this minister. He's ignored everything. So I'm recommending that shooters call WA Labor's head office on 08 9328 7222. Now,
what's that number again? Just run that again, because people will be scrambling for a pencil.
It's on the screen. But for the audio version, is 08 9328 7222. And it's also in the description to this video. Okay, so what you need to do is you ring them up. Don't be abusive or anything. In fact, you might even get the answering machine, but it is answered by a live person. But all you need to do is say, I'm a gun owner. I'm supporting the rally on the 8th of February, and I'm going to vote Labor out.
End of message.
That's all you need to say. If they ask you questions, okay, tell them who you are. Be polite. The people there are just salaried employees. They're not, your diehard, rusted on Labor, sort of decision makers. They're just doing their job. So be polite to them, but give them that message, and they'll start counting them up. And when they get to the first couple of thousand, they'll realise they've got a problem. But the whole idea is that you demonstrate through the rally and through this, they got a problem, a big problem, and they are going to pay a price.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that politicians and political parties understand best is numbers. And the more people that do that, the better. In fact, even if it was only 100, they'd get a message, because it would be unprecedented.
Yeah, I think there might be a couple of zeros to add to that, I would like to think. I mean, we don't know yet what the numbers... We don't know how many are going to turn to the rally, but the feedback we've had has been extremely encouraging. So that message, again, is I'm a gun owner. I'm supporting the rally on the 8th of February. I'm going to vote Labor out. And that is also in the description to this podcast episode.
Yeah. Sorry, Neil, just for clarification, what I was talking about is if they only got 100 people phoned up, they would be astounded, because that would be unprecedented. Yeah. I expect we're going to see a lot more on the gardens on the 8th of Feb.
And I think, as I think you reminded me of here, is the need for shooters to let other shooters know that this is on, because not everybody's on Facebook or email. A lot of people, work the farm or whatever it is, but you always catch up with your friends at the general store, at the pub, at the servo, whatever it is. So tell your mates this is on, give them the details, and make sure they're there, because they've got guns, no doubt, and they're impacted by this, and they need to understand what's happening.
Yeah, probably the most important thing is pick up the phone and phone them. You get much better buy-in from friends or relatives, or maybe it's someone that allows you to shoot on their property. Phone them up. Like, point them to the Facebook page if they haven't seen it. And we can't rely on social media to do all the work for us. We as the shooting community need to do this work ourselves. So I implore everybody, whether you're a target shooter, farmer, I don't care, gun dealer, you need to get everybody you know informed, and informed to turn up and show your support for the position the National Party's taken, and support for anyone else that is elected to follow suit. So I think that's probably the biggest, most important marketing thing we can do right now, is have anyone that watches this, even though you've shared the original post a couple of weeks ago, you can't rely on that working. You've got to pick up the phone or speak to people face to face at work, wherever. Because you as an individual, you might think I can only influence one or two people, but if everybody influences two people, that's how we end up with monumental numbers like we saw with the initial release.
And I think the final thing I just want to add to that is the transport options to get to the rally. If you're not familiar with what's available in Perth, we'll have the details on in the description to this video again. But there's trains, there's lots of public transport options. There's also a big parking venue nearby. So check it out. That's also another reason why you need to stay on the email list. So I think with that, Dave.
Yeah, and look, make sure you make it a family event. Like I said before, bring other people along. But the rally's only going to go for an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. You'll be in the middle of Perth, hopefully on a lovely sunny day. Take advantage of restaurants, cafes, the parks, gardens. As much as I'm from over this side of town, whenever I'm in Perth, the CBD of Perth's a lovely place. Go and enjoy it. Make this a day out for the family, and you'll get to hang out with some other good quality, like-minded people. We look forward to seeing you there.
Great, Dave Brown for Shooters Union Australia. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Gun News Australia. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and that you're on our email list. And don't forget to check the episode notes, because that's where you'll find out how to support the show. We'll see you in the next episode of Gun News Australia, brought to you by Politics Reloaded.